Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how we can let go of being driven by the mind. So I want you to hear me out here. Let's see if this description resonates with you. When we are driven by the mind, have you felt like you're living in a fog in a way, and that it feels that you're thinking about a lot of things at the same time? And also, you're not really noticing your breath or that your heart beats. You're not really noticing that you're alive in a way. And that might sound a little strange, but when we are up in our minds, we don't really notice that we're living. This description also, imagine yourself moving fast around, maybe multitasking, as I said, and feeling like there is a lot going on at the same time, not only around you, but also inside you. But it's not this sense of feeling that I'm alive, I'm here. It's more a sense of chaos sometimes, both inside and outside. If anything of this resonates with you, this is how it can feel or being presented to others as someone that's up in their head. I call it up in my head, but because personally, I used to feel exactly like this. It was almost like it was some sort of noise. It was a gray mass, if you will, around me with noise. And I couldn't figure out really what this noise was all about. But now I realize that I did create it myself. I let my mind take charge and creating this environment for myself. Now, I call it noise. I want to go further into this description of how it can feel and look like when you're driven by the mind, because so many of us are seeing it as a normal state of being. And it's also this noise, I call it. I call it noise because it's not this feeling of clarity. So if we move into now, if we're not driven by the mind, for example, how does that look like? Hear me out. Listen to this description. You are someone who feel clarity in your life. If you're interacting with somebody, you are fully present with that person. You're feeling an ease in your life when you wake up in the morning. You allow yourself to do one thing at a time. You appreciate and value beauty in your life in the sense that you can see it in the moment. You feel a joy in your life just for the little things. Maybe it's a beautiful piece of glass that you can see and appreciate the color of it, or a beautiful flower, and that just comes to you in the moment. You feel creative. You feel that inner spark of what can I create today? And you have an easy smile on your face. This is what I call an expression of living heart-centered. And what I mean with that is also that you are expressing your essence. I see essence as something that is very clear, very directed, if you will, and expressed with full clarity. That's our essence. And when we're driven by the mind, this essence of us, our unique expression, if you will, is kind of dulled away in that noise that we allow the mind to create for us. So I hope this description is resonating with you, to go from that dull noise, that gray mass of distraction, if you will, during a day, to clarity, beauty, joy, ease. So this is what I'd like to talk about today. And I hope some of my words are resonating with you, because how can we let go of this way of being driven by the mind to living heart-centered? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, one question I often receive is, how do I know that I'm driven by the mind? Or how can I change this? How can I begin to unnest that tight web of dullness, if you will, that I feel in my life? And first, I usually want to recommend to start observe what's going on in your life, because observing yourself is something that we don't allow ourselves to do when we're driven by the mind. We are often fully focused on our external world and not allowing ourselves to connect with our inner world. So that's the first thing. And how do we observe ourselves? One thing that I recommend is actually to record yourself, and even better, to have somebody else record your voice randomly in a conversation with somebody else. Because it takes us to be able to observe ourselves, to see how our mind and our caught upness in the mind is expressing itself in our life. And it's very challenging sometimes to kind of listen to ourselves. What is it that's coming out of my mouth? Or more so even, what is the conversation that takes place on the inside of us? That's what we want. That's the nut to crack, how to listen to your own conversation on the inside. But the first step may be that you actually are listening to what comes out of your mouth. And once we hear it on a tape, or, it becomes somebody else, and then we can kind of hear what comes out. So that's a little tip. Record yourself, or have somebody else record you at a random times, because that allows you not to adjust yourself, because we often want to kind of adjust ourselves to be good when we know we're being recorded. But so I think that is a very effective way of starting to observe ourselves. Because the point here is, if we can start to get in touch with our inner flow of conversation, we may find out that that conversation is not that supportive. And that conversation, where does it come from? Often it is from our mind that has made up their mind already about things. What you can start notice is, what do you assume about things? What are your interpretations of things? Do you agree with what you're hearing, or do you agree on what you're finding out about yourself? Because often when we are driven by the mind, we go on like a train on a track that has one direction, and there's no exits to that direction. Sometimes the mind wants to have predictability, safety, or at least the way it's perceiving safety. It wants to know exactly what happens next, as opposed to our essence, our inner unique essence is full of creativity, full of passion and joy and unlimited energy for creation. And that is scary, the mind thinks, because it's not that one-way track anymore. So once we can start to get hold of that mind-driven way that we often are so ingrained in, that's when we can start tap into our unique essence, that clarity, that peak of, well, that spear, I would call it a spear, with which your uniqueness shines through to everyone else. So that's what we want to cultivate. You want to cultivate that uniqueness about yourself and let it shine through. But the mind and that dullness, the noise, if you will, is something we need to kind of take charge of. I have a little bonus meditation that I recorded for you to help you release stress and invite harmony. So go get that. It's in the description box below, and click on the link and sign up and experience and enjoy this meditation to help you make the shift. See if you can learn something new about yourself and how your mind works and how the impact of your mind is in your life today. So thank you for listening today at this episode on New Light Living podcast. I will be back next week with another episode. Bye.